Hey y'all, welcome to Veg Fest. So glad you're here. For those of you who didn't hear my announcements and welcome just a few moments ago, we're really thrilled that you're here. You make this possible. You are our reason for organizing. And so I am thrilled that you're here to hear our first incredible presentation. If our speakers will come to the stage, we'll get started. Dani Taylor, everybody. JoVonna Johnson-Cooke. And Nichole Dandrea-Russert. And I am Adrienne Lowe. I am a founding executive board member of Atlanta Veg Fest. Been with the organization since 2012. And it's my honor to moderate this session. So welcome, everyone. All right, I am going to start with some brief introductions. We're going to start with JoVonna here. JoVonna Johnson-Cooke is owner and co-founder of My Two Foods, a vegan meal delivery service and vegan nutrition education hub. She holds a BA in psychology, and through My Two Foods, she's working to develop culturally appropriate and accessible educational materials that highlight the benefit of healthy nutrition through a vegan diet. The My Two Foods Mother's Meal program works to provide women, especially those in modest means households, with the knowledge and guidance to achieve a healthy pregnancy and optimal postpartum recovery through a vegan meal and nutrition program. The overall mission of My Two Foods is to honor the art of food rituals and to serve humanity in a way that promotes the least harm and the most good for people, animals, and the environment. As co-founder of Grow Where You Are, she works with a dynamic team of people committed to local food sovereignty by assisting individuals and communities in creating sustainable, plant-based local food systems. Welcome, JoVonna.
Thank you.
Next, we have Nichole Dandrea-Russert. She is a registered nutrition, is that right? Dietitian nutritionist. And has been for 22 years with a focus on plant-based nutrition and women's health. She also specializes in diabetes education, if you have anyone in your life who you love with diabetes, sports nutrition, and prenatal nutrition as well. In 2009, she launched Nichole Organics, a vegan lifestyle company that creates vegan chocolates and snacks made with healing plant-based ingredients. She uses Nichole as a platform to educate and inspire people to eat more plant-based foods, and her stuff is delicious, and donates a portion of sales to animal rescues. She's also been a yoga student since 1999 and has been teaching yoga since 2005, and she's teaching yoga throughout Atlanta. So welcome, Nichole. So glad you're here. And finally, at the end, we have Dani Taylor. Dani is a figure champion, co-founder of Vegan Proteins, and co-founder of PlantBuilt.com, which is a nonprofit organization of strength-based vegan athletes who compete together to raise awareness for veganism and money for rescued animals at farm sanctuaries. As head coach at Vegan Proteins, Dani oversees all nutrition and training programming. She's a certified personal trainer and nutritionist and has never let naysayers stand in her way or anyone else's when it comes to achieving their fitness goals while following a vegan diet. Helping people become more confident in themselves via exercise and a healthy diet and mindset is what motivates her on a daily basis, and she especially enjoys working with women who have in the past been too nervous to consider lifting weights, and she loves seeing that confidence grow in her clients. Dani is a certified personal trainer with AFAA and certified in plant-based nutrition with Cornell University and the T. Colin Campbell Foundation. Welcome, Dani. All right, now you've heard their official bios, and the reason for hearing the official bios is just to make sure everyone has a solid understanding of the really cool credentials and stuff these women have been doing. But now I'd love to turn it over to them and have them tell us a little about themselves and the work that they've been doing. So let's just get started. What is the experience of working with each of you like?
Yeah, okay, I'll go first. So I work with exclusively vegan clients or people who are trying to go vegan, mostly women, some men, of all varying fitness levels from like brand new, never touched a weight to pro-level bodybuilders. And I work really closely with them one-on-one. We're in contact every week, often multiple times a week, just checking in to see how things are going, not just with their meal plan and their training programs, but also with their mindset, their confidence, and constantly reshaping goals as we go along. So it's a very synergistic process.
So I do a little bit of education through Nichole, the vegan snacking company, and then also individually. And through Nichole, really, as Adrian had mentioned, is to inspire people to eat healthier and give them ideas and just inspiration through plant-based foods. So we do a lot of blogging and social media posts just to kind of even inspire people, of course, who aren't eating plant-based. So we kind of, chocolate is our vehicle to do that. We lure them in with the chocolate and then
Good vehicle.
feed them, yeah. So if they're not yet plant-based, hopefully by the end of, the education and trying everything that they go in that direction. And individually, I focus on really the individual and not so much, I think often we get people who want a meal plan presented to them. So a lot of what I do is very individualized, starting, depending on where people start, starting with short-term goals, and then, moving to the bigger picture. So the vegan lifestyle or plant-based lifestyle is it's a lifestyle. It's not just like making these little changes throughout your diet, but it's really a lifestyle. So just planting the seeds for people and helping them together, so working one-on-one with people, helping them define the goals and what works for them, just because one diet doesn't fit everybody or one lifestyle fit within the vegan lifestyle doesn't fit everybody. So we really kind of work with your family, your lifestyle, your work, and then establish those goals to get a little bit closer, just to really to be the best that you want to be. And it's more about I feel like it's more about adding healthy foods into your diet versus taking everything out. So putting a more positive approach on it and adding more, I think herbs and spices are very underutilized. So like just adding things that are super powerful in nutrition and very nutrient dense, and letting that be a replacement for other things in your diet so that you're just getting like complete full vitality in life.
So more additive, more like adding the abundance. That's
Exactly.
Awesome. How about you, JoVonna?
Because we do so many different projects, it varies. With the children, it's always about being fun, but also being familiar, because children, they're very opinionated, and they're open to new ideas, but they also want comfort. So being different, but also being familiar and exciting, having fun with food, and even just having fun in the experience of being outside in nature. And connecting with the earth. With my pregnant women and our families, it's really a more customized kind of one-on-one what they need. A lot of my clients that come to me are not necessarily plant-based when they come. Yeah. They have an interest, or they're saying, hey, I'm pregnant and I want to have a healthy pregnancy. How can we, make that come about? So it's really about working with the client one-on-one and having a personal exchange about what their, like you mentioned, their goals are personally and how we can attain their goals that are suited for them.
Yeah, definitely. To give our wonderful folks here today a good example of the way you work, I'd love to hear a story of a woman that you worked with, or a family that you worked with, or a child that you worked with, something that just sticks in your mind as like one of your favorite client experiences, a time when you really helped someone achieve something awesome. That maybe when you're feeling low or you're feeling a little down on yourself, you can return to that moment and recall a time when you really made a difference for someone. What pops to mind when you hear that?
I can go. Last year we did, every year we try to do a local food worldwide tour, which is a tour where we travel across the world really, and we find a country and we figure out the vegan scene in that country. Last year, we did Kenya. And the thing that sticks out in my mind was we went to an orphanage, and we set up, we had a vegan feast for all the kids at the orphanage. And we also set up a farm so that they would have access to food that they're growing themselves, and then just have access, period. Because they rely on funding. So this way they could have a food source at the orphanage. And what I found out this year when we were going back to do like a reassessment of like how our work helped the orphanage, they have actually, they have a greenhouse now that they added on to the farm that we put on. They have a greenhouse, water tanks, and they're actually growing peppers for their kitchen, but also to help fund their orphanage as well. So
That's incredible.
if we can be able to, go into a place and just add a little bit, and they they take it further. That's the work. That's all, just to be able to just offer the inspiration, and they just take it and run with it. That's the biggest inspiration in the work that we do, is being able just to be a catalyst to people's own growth. Yeah.
Is there something about the messaging that you use that made it really easier for them to kind of hook into it and like understand, like to feel that you see the personhood in them and you want to help them,
I think it's just dealing with them as people.
Yeah, as people,
I mean, they're children, and then just even the adults, okay, what is the need? And just person to person, just having that kind of connection. I think that when we allow ourselves to be human with one another, I mean, it opens the door for us to just, reveal ourselves and be open and be who we are. So I think it wasn't really any messaging, just being, together and
being
having
real.
a meal and, and working together is really, just what did it, yeah.
That's outstanding. Yeah, that's something that I love about the way Dani works. She's extremely personable, extremely vulnerable, willing to tell you when she's in pain, willing to tell you when things are hard, willing to hear you when you say, Dani, I don't want to do this anymore. Dani, did you have a client experience that popped to mind?
So I have a couple client experiences that pop to mind. Honest to God, one of my personal most awesome clients was you. Actually, honestly, I enjoyed working with you so much. No, this is not even blowing smoke right now. I'm serious. I really, really enjoyed working with you because you were fairly new to the gym, and that's intimidating for a lot of people, and it can make you feel really down on yourself and self-conscious when you go to this place where it seems like everybody else knows what they're doing and you're the only one that doesn't. And of course that's not the case. But you really, really powered through, even when it was hard, even when it sucked, because sometimes it sucks. And we're just super open and honest about your experience. And there are some people that come to you and they have very concrete, kind of superficial goals. And it's not my job to determine someone else's goal. If that's what they want, if they want something very simple, like, hey, I just need to lose 10 pounds. Okay, all right, let's do that. And then there are some people that have much bigger goals, much broader goals that are not gonna just last short term. They're gonna be long lasting, habit building, changes. And while I appreciate goals of all kinds, those are the ones that really inspire me the most, where it's you're not just changing your body in a certain way for a superficial reason. It's you're restructuring the way that you go about your life to build that life that you want to live. And those are my favorite type of clients personally. So, and then you were definitely one of them.
Thank you. She's definitely got me eating a lot more protein and a lot more broccoli than I was before. It's pretty sweet. How about you, Nichole?
So similar to both of these ladies' stories and just planting seeds for people, I feel like there's a lot of just so many stories daily that are inspiring. It comes back. So you put out something that you want to inspire people, and they come back with something to you. So for example, just empowering people. So planting the seeds for individuals and giving them the tools to work with, and them coming back to you with stories. So on Instagram, for example, this is not food related, but we'll post, of course, cruelty-free ideas, and we had a picture of a cute cow recently, and just talking about how being plant-based can help animals and the planet, and a little bit, and somebody had emailed back and just said that cow's face alone makes me never want to eat meat again. So things like that, I think just everyday stories. And then personally, my mom went vegan after being exposed, and my approach is not to tell anybody what to do or ask anybody to do anything, but just to kind of do it. And if they have questions, they can ask and follow suit. And if they start to feel better, that's great. And they come back with advice. That this goes across my husband and I, both of our families are both big meat eaters, and they've made really big changes. So not everybody is vegan yet, but I think just letting them see how plant-based meals can be so full and vibrant and healthy and sustainable, and it makes them feel better, and they start to follow that, and then they just gradually make the changes. So.
Makes you feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, adding more plant-based protein was the ticket, because I had been vegan for well over 10 years, but I wasn't eating enough seitan and tofu and tempeh, and so when I started having that at every meal to support my training program that I was doing with Dani, it was awesome. Like, I immediately noticed a jump in my energy, and it just helped sustain me throughout the day. So I'm so glad.
That's not always the case. There are some people who come to me and they're eating like way too much protein, and I'm like, cool it with the protein.
Yeah.
We can put
Good,
some other
you
foods
good.
in there. So I mean, it's just like super individual. So, but I'm glad.
And like Nichole said, I think too, like when family comes on board, that's the biggest thing. I mean, because our families set our foundation for health, period. And if you get to a place in life where you are now inspiring your family members, to change their diet or change how they think about, the food that they're eating and how they approach their health, that's like the biggest blessing. It's the biggest inspiration. Yeah.
For sure. Now, I think one question that the audience may appreciate is, you're all entrepreneurs, so you do different things, you work very differently, you have very dynamic work schedules, so it can be hard to kind of say, like, this is exactly what they do. But if you were to think about that, and you were to think, what is the number one thing that people get wrong about your line of work or about working with you? What is like a number one misconception? Somebody comes to you, they want to work with you, they want to learn more about you, and they bring it to you. And how do you lovingly and compassionately and hearing them answer in a way that they can hear? What's the number one misconception?
Well, that I can cure anything. That's the number one misconception.
She cannot. Let us be clear. She
Cure
cannot.
anything. No, not at all. I am not a doctor. I'm not a physician, and I'm not you. I think what we tend to do is we look to other people for help, for things that are for ourselves to do. And I understand it. I get it. Like we tend to look for like role models or an authority in something, and we forget that we actually have the power within ourselves to solve any issue that we have. And so that's the biggest thing, is like, I'm not doing this diet or this program. It's you, and you have the ability to, whatever your goal is, it's for you to do, and you can do it.
And it's
I'm not
within
going to cure anything. I'm going to assist, and I'm going to be there as support. But yeah, that's the biggest misconception, is that we're actually the doers as opposed to the people who are coming to us. Yeah.
That's outstanding. That's so inspiring.
Yeah, I agree that I think we're more like, we're going to guide you on your journey, because it's really, everyone's got their own personal journey into plant-based eating, and whatever motivates you to get there and whatever inspires you to eat better for yourself and for your family is really important. So I think a lot of times people come to, at least me personally, and to say, can you give me a diet? Just give me a diet, tell me what to eat. And it's just not as simple as handing you a diet and giving you what I eat every day, because you might not like that. So it's just really important to, typically, I give folks like a little bit of homework before and have them write 3 to 5 days, and it's more just even about diet, like what's your lifestyle, how much time do you have, can you cook, do you have to eat out? So there's just so many more things involved. This is not as simple as just, here's a diet. Of course, recipes help, and maybe seeing a meal plan might help, but really like individualizing it to your lifestyle is really important. Another thing is calorie counting. I feel like so many people are focused on numbers, and initially that might be helpful. I personally like fiber counting, just like
Fiber in the house.
yeah, somebody like that. So yeah, I think once you get accustomed, maybe initially counting grams of fiber, because with fiber you're getting all your plant-based foods, and there's tons of phytonutrients and just good substance there. But once you do that, your body tells you what you need, and you should no longer have to calorie count.
Yeah. Dani, you are a vegan bodybuilder. I am sure you come up against some misconceptions.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones you come up against?
I mean, there's so many misconceptions about vegan bodybuilding in general. One, it can't be done. Two, if it is being done, they're obviously on steroids, which is not true. But the biggest misconception that I see in my own practice, it's kind of similar to what you just said, is that people think I have a secret. Like I have a secret formula in my mind to make vegan bodybuilders, and because I work with so many, but every single person is on a different path. Like everybody's program, the way their stuff is set up is very different. It's individualized to them. It's not just like we put them through a formula and it's like, well, here's your plan for the next 12 weeks. It's like we're learning what works for their body, what doesn't, what works for their performance, what doesn't. And that learning that relationship doesn't happen overnight. Like there's some time in there where you guys get to know each other and experiment with different things. So yeah, I feel like when people see somebody, and you might see it later with Tory Washington, actually when he's giving his talk, people will think like that person knows they have a secret. Like they have the formula figured out. And it's just like maybe they figured it out for them. They figured out their secret.
Well, they figured out the step of making progress every day, right? Mm-hmm. Like doing something toward your goal every day is the magic, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you for that. But maybe this is a terrible question. And if it is, we can totally discard it and move on to the next one. I hear that you all work very individually with your clients and you give them a lot of attention and a lot of love and you learn about their lifestyle. I mean, heck, when I started with Dani, I literally sent her the contents of my pantry and fridge and she worked with what I already had to help me write a meal plan, like the actual stuff that was there. But, we're at an event with a lot of different people, and some of them may not be able to work one-on-one with you. What kind of generalizable advice or what kind of nugget would you like to send home with them today in terms of self-care or, kind of leveling up with self-care?
I would say that if it's like something that you're curious about, whether that's fitness or just nutrition or bringing veganism into your community, like find your community, find your people. And the internet makes that so much easier now than it was 10 or 15 years ago. And even though, the internet can be good and bad because there's all kinds of information on it, finding like-minded people can really, really help you further yourself without having to necessarily monetarily invest in that. And you can learn what other people are having success with and kind of talk that out. And I think that is a really good step for people that can't work one-on-one with somebody, is just reach out to the community because there's tons of people that just are looking for the same.
For sure.
That's a great tip. Yeah, being resourceful is really important, and just connecting with people that have that same goal in mind, just to have a support system. Also, don't beat yourself up. I feel like people go from where they're at, and then they want perfection, and there really isn't perfection. It's just like every day and every meal, and if the meal planning is your goal, just take it one step at a time and try to do something maybe different every day, something towards your goal. Maybe it is adding a new food into your diet and finding a recipe online and experimenting with that food. I also think that a lot of times it's overwhelming because there's so much information, but really just getting down to your core about, like, what do you want for yourself? What do you think is gonna work for you? And one thing that I think is personally what helped me, and you are seeing it all over the media right now, is the benefits of meditation. I think just being quiet, like finding a quiet time for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can do during the day, and setting the pace for the day. Like in the morning, if you just like meditate for 5 minutes to 10 minutes, it seems really hard because you want to get up and go, and everyone wants to check their phones real quick. There's got a lot of activity happening overnight. But just that 5 to 10 minutes of sitting, just starting with that, you'll start to notice that you really kind of tap into what you truly need and want, and what your body needs. And I think that helps to like cultivate what your future plan could be for a healthier lifestyle.
That's awesome. How about you, JoVonna?
Well, I would totally agree with what you just said. I think, one, prioritizing self-care, because everything else starts from there. Like how your day starts, how your life is, your foundation is how you view and how you take care of yourself. And then also that it's a day-by-day thing. Like I don't believe in cheat days. I don't believe in, like I had an off day and, I think that you just take it every single day, step by step, and just honor your journey. So if you have a day where you kind of fell off, it's just a part of the process, and get back on. It's like, to me, it's like, it's not a big deal. Everything is a part of the journey, and you learn from every experience. So I think just removing this idea of like beating ourselves up when we don't meet our own expectations, because there's so much power and so much self-discovery and so much we can grow from in the experience. So really just having the experience for what it is. Some days you have high days, some days you have low days, but just, just staying with it.
Yeah, anybody in this room ever had a low day? Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah. JoVonna, I hear you and I agree with you, but I have to tell you, when I was training hardcore with Dani, I really relished my free meal every week, where I just like went to go vegetarian and got like vegan chicken and waffles, or like knew I was gonna carb up. It was pretty.
But like there's some importance to that too, with this idea of perfection.
Balance, yeah.
And perfection being something that's like, perfection is unattainable for anybody, and if you try to marry yourself to this idea of perfection, you're gonna be disappointed in yourself. I think finding like balance is super, super important.
No, and that, for me, it's just the idea of even calling it a cheat day. It's like, cheating on what?
Right?
Yeah.
Because, because with me, I have this thing, okay, well, we cleanse this time of the month, and then and there was a time period where I was stuck in this, okay, it had to be perfect. And so what I would do, and it's maybe giving away too much, what I would do is like, the day before I started my cleanse, I'm like, I'm gonna eat all the things that I know I'm gonna wanna eat before the cleanse day.
Yeah,
right?
Some of us in this room have probably done that before.
Completely horrible, feel completely horrible about myself, and then also physically feel completely horrible. And it's like, why even take yourself to that space, Yeah. It's, everything in moderation. And and if you happen to have a day where you're a bit above moderate, it's okay. Yeah. You still have tomorrow. So, yeah,
for sure. So thinking more broadly about our community, when you're on social, when you're on Instagram, when you're just out in the world interacting with humans like you do, what are some of the main needs you keep hearing from people, whether they want it for themselves or really kind of thinking more globally, things that our community needs, the kind of healing that we need to do together? What comes to mind?
Wow.
I know, I throw the hard ones, don't I?
I think that, I feel like we touched on this in a couple of the questions, is just planting seeds. So we do a lot of like demos and events with our chocolate company, and I feel like people who haven't really been exposed to a plant-based lifestyle, they're still really curious, about what's involved, or there's such a need, there's still a misconception for what plant-based is and how to incorporate and how to make that change. I think there's just still like a huge separation between non-plant-based eaters, or like people who are just completely, eating a lot of meat, and seeing the vegan lifestyle or plant-based, like they should just kind of like merge into one. I feel like there should be an opportunity to, not with meat of course, but I mean like they should be able to see that plant-based and is delicious and healthy and good. And we still get a lot of comments from people who say, I could never be vegan, or I could never be plant-based, but it's more about just presenting, vegan foods and delicious meals, like it can be healthy and delicious,
Sure.
And planting the seeds and just letting them know that this is what it could be, and whether it's, I just feel like there's still an education process that needs to happen on like what that is and what it looks like, because there's still, in some people's minds, a separation. And
our media landscape, whether you're scrolling on Instagram or you're watching TV, it's not saturated with ads for broccoli and bodybuilding, right? Like it's, Nooch, whatever crazy amalgam word of words is at Taco Bell now, or so on. So it's not a big part of like our vernacular, or like what we're seeing when we go to engage online. We're confronted with ads and things like that for other kinds of choices.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, there's such a brainwashing and marketing. People look for 100-calorie snacks, or saw like a package of Oreo cookies that said made with real cocoa, and which I think it triggers something in our brains that, oh, it must be healthier, there's cocoa in there, so it's better. But more about just like, looking at the ingredients, making sure they're simple, and versus like these marketing things that you see on the packages really draw people in. And whether it's low calorie or low sugar, but really just kind of turning that package over and like, what am I really putting into my body here? And
Yeah,
not just
and to make it clear, they're not regulated and they're not standardized. So there's the claims that are made on these packages are meaningless. So how about y'all? What are some of the global needs that you see right now in the community?
Well, in the work that we do, I feel like people really just want to have like a real connection. Especially when it comes to like our communities and bringing people together. Really just having a sense of community and having something that you can identify with, that it feels that you're a part of the process, which is why with the farming, it's so important, because you get people together, you get them working together, and then they have a connection with their food, they have a connection with their environment and the earth. And they can see how they are a part of the whole, of creation really in it, but how we all work together to make this whole thing go. So I think really, it's just we can be so disconnected because of things that we talked about as far as media, and we're informed by that about how we should even live our lives, how we should eat, how we should look, how we should identify as ourselves. And so I think people are really just looking for realness, and if we can figure out ways to get back to that, to get back to what really makes us, human, or even just a part of this whole, environment that we live in. Yeah.
All right, I have 2 more questions for y'all, and then I'm going to open it up to questions that we have here. So start those wheels turning, things you want to ask our esteemed guests. But first, Dani, did you want to add anything to that last question before I move on?
I mean, I think that when I look at social media as a whole and veganism within that realm, I see that we're lacking in a lot of diversity. And, vegans come in all shapes, sizes, colors, ages, abilities, and we're seeing a lot of the same types of people over and over again. And I think that leaves a lot of people out and makes veganism a lot less approachable than it could be. And I mean, that's a big problem. I don't have the answer for that problem really, but I do think that veganism as a whole could definitely stand to use more diversity in the public eye.
All right, let's move on to the final, next to last question. So you all inspire me. You're the reason I put together this panel and wanted to be here to talk with you and share your experience with the FEST community. But I'm really curious, who inspires you? Who are you reading or learning from or studying with who's helping you stay on track and helping you grow?
That's a large list.
Well,
Wow.
My team inspires me so much. Plant Built, I think we're like 70 people strong at this point, and they're all vegan strength athletes, not just bodybuilders, but power lifters, CrossFitters, Olympic lifters, strongmen, kettlebell. And I think that every single person on that team is just such a badass that anytime I feel like I don't want to do whatever it is I'm supposed to do that day, like I think about my team, I think about how hard they're busting their butts to represent veganism for the animals, show up to a competition where you're competing against a whole bunch of non-vegans and win. That speaks really, really well for what is possible to do without eating animals, and that inspires me to push myself every day.
That's incredible. How about y'all, Nichole and JoVonna?
That's super inspiring. Of course, I mean, everybody here is coming to an event like this. I just love coming to the Veg Fest and just being immersed with all these other entrepreneurs and also the public, and just hearing stories from people and getting feedback. I think it's great, just a great environment to really uplift your spirits. And then Right now, gosh, there's so many books out there and there's so many people to learn from. I wish I could just like sleep on them and just let it all absorb every night.
Pick one you read recently that you loved.
Right now, I'm reading a book by Joe Robinson called Eating on the Wild Side, and it's about how our plants have changed over the hundreds of years and how we've like taken plants in their indigenous geographical area and move them to other areas, and how they've lost some of the nutrition because of that, or like the transportation from grocery stores to us. We all know this, that it loses so much nutrition, and by eating local, I mean, yes, of course, it's very important. I think it's kind of come full circle because now there's such a push for the local movement, but there's just so much more. There's such a huge benefit to eating local nutritionally, that they're just so much more nutrient dense when they're harvesting them the same day and you're putting them in your mouth, putting them on your plate that night. There's a huge nutrition benefit to that. And there's also one other podcast that I'm loving right now from One Green Planet. If any of you guys follow One Green Planet, they're Animal Planet and food based. They've got lots of great nuggets in there. And there's a podcast that Neil Zacharias, who started One Green Planet, he interviews entrepreneurs in the plant-based space and how they got started and talks about their journey. And it's just super inspiring to hear them talk about how they got into plant-based foods, where they think the plant-based food industry is going, and how much it's growing. I mean, they come out with these percentages of how the plant-based milks are pushing the dairy milks out of the aisles right now, and the plant-based meats. I mean, there's such a movement going on right now and as consumers, we can all contribute to that by, of course, purchasing these products. So just the whole full circle of consumers supporting them and them innovating with these new plant-based foods, it's just a great time to be in that arena. So it's very inspiring.
Definitely. I heard you say, JoVonna, you were like, ooh, I have a list.
Yeah, I do.
Tell us some of your list.
So when it comes to health, I would say my first was like Queen Afua. There was Dr. Sebi. There's Dick Gregory, because he was also an activist. When it comes to chefs, there's Bryant Terry. When it comes to farmers, they're not necessarily vegan, but they're like women farmers who are about seed saving, about food sovereignty, about land rights. So like Winona LaDuke, Vandana Shiva, Wangari Maathai. I mean, it's so many people, and I mean, because I study so much, because there's so much happening right now. So it's good to be a student of like these different movements. So it's a lot of people. I could probably go on and on and on. But, yeah.
I'm so glad you said Bryant Terry. Bryant Terry is fantastic. He wrote Vegan Soul Kitchen. If you don't have it already, it's one of my favorites. Bryant Terry, if you're watching this video, we've been trying to get you at Veg Fest every year. Not kidding. Next year is your year, buddy. Come join us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, like Google him, and he just does so much amazing work. Not only as a chef, because he's a great chef, and I pull a lot of inspiration from him, but his activism as well when it comes to not just land rights, but people rights, justice. He does a lot of work in Oakland. So yeah, he's a really good guy to follow.
He's good. He's real good.
He can cook.
He can. Oh my goodness. He can. He helped me make the closest to. He helped me make seitan pork chops. Because growing up here in the South, like we used to get that real lean, cheap cut, and he helped me make it with using plant-based ingredients in a way that just brought me right back to my mama's kitchen. So highly, highly recommend Bryant Terry.
And Bryant, a lot of just if I can real quick, because I'm like also a Bryant Terry champion.
Of
what
course.
he does is that and without even saying it, he expresses that veganism is not new. It's been around for a very, very, very long time. And how he does it is that he brings together all these cultures that have basically a plant-based diet, and he shows us the different variations of all these cultures, and then he brings them together. So, I mean, yeah, Bryant Terry's awesome.
He's incredible. He's really good. Very accessible.
Maybe that'll get him here if we just keep saying
I hope so. Maybe, yeah. He'll do a food demo for us. All right, I'm going to ask my final question, and I'm going to open it up to the audience. If you do have a question, I ask for you to kind of transition to the front right here, because I am clearly right here with the microphone, and you will want that microphone for the recording. So to round us out, I would love to hear, we've heard about meditation already, and I know y'all all practice meditation, but tell us about another practice or another ritual that you do every day or most days or when you're super stressed out, I need to go back and do that thing that helps me come back to my center. What practice or ritual do you do each day to stay focused on your goals? However you define your goals. Could be health, could be entrepreneurial, what do you do? And let's start and just go down to Dani. So let's start with JoVonna.
Go outside. Go outside, touch the soil, and just center myself and realize that I am a part of this planet, that I am of the same energy as Mother Nature. And so in that sense, I have a purpose, and I have all the assistance that I need to fulfill what it is that I am here to do in this lifetime, because the earth we're working together. So really just going outside and touching the earth every single day to remind myself that I am a part of this planet, and I'm connected to everything in this planet. And then it makes things a bit easier. Yeah. A bit easier.
A bit easier.
Yeah.
Touch the ground, y'all.
Yeah, touch the ground every day if you can.
Every day. Nichole?
Yeah. Nature's a huge one as well. But for me, it's starting in the morning. If I don't start my day off with a little routine, I get nothing done.
What's your routine?
Well, meditation's part of it. Even if there's no time, ideally 15 to 20 minutes, but if I'm waking up late and running out of bed, if I can at least get just a couple minutes just to center and clear the slate for the day. And then some sort of yoga practice. So just stepping on my mat sometimes is all I need just to get on the mat. I feel like, we all have so many things going on during the day, and making a list is helpful, but really, for me, when I step on the mat, it just clears the slate and helps to line things up. I feel much more efficient. So whether it's a 10-minute practice or 45 minutes, it's something to start the day.
I love that. Dani, what's your practice?
So I think being self-employed, just having a set schedule is critical in general. So I kind of have ritualized everything, but it's very goal-focused. Everything is super, super purposeful. So my self-care thing is actually really meaningless. At the end of the night, when all of my craziness of the day is done, I do paint by numbers. Literally every single day for 20 minutes, the kids ones, the complicated kids ones. And it's just the most useless, mindless thing I could possibly do with my time, and it is so relaxing.
Now, just to be clear, paint by numbers is the one where the image is cut up into different sections, and each section is numbered, and the number corresponds to a color.
Little paint pots with numbers on them. Yeah. That. And all of the other stuff I do is so type A that is, for me, it's such a great way to wind down.
Still a little type A though. You are painting by.
I guess it is.
You're feeling it out.
Well, if I wasn't using numbers, I don't think I'd have a picture at the end of it. It'd just be a mess. But.
What have you painted recently?
A cabin in the woods.
A cabin in the woods. Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much. This was fantastic. Does anybody have any questions? All right, we have one right here. I'm going to ask you to speak into the microphone for the recording, so I'm going to come to you. So if you have a question, really do come down. And we have time for about this many questions, so this is great. All right, here you are. And tell me your name.
Hi, my name is Melinda, and my first question is for Dani. I just wanted to find out what area or what market do you primarily work in, or is it a facility? What areas
do you
take clients?
So I live in Massachusetts, but I take clients all over the world. They're all online, so that's how I worked with Adrian here in Georgia. I have a portal where we're in contact and then talk basically back and forth on the phone throughout the whole week. So I do take clients from everywhere. It's a little harder in other countries because they have different foods in the grocery store, but even that can be done. So.
You realize I'm all terrified now that I'm not going to get any time with Dani, right? It's everybody finds out what your favorite restaurant is, and now you can't get a table anymore. So, no, seriously, hit her up.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Do you mind writing the information I'm getting ready to ask them in my book since I can't do it? Okay. So for each of you, if you can give your direct contact information or social media or however to get in contact with you, and get your pen and paper ready if you guys. But if you can share that one by one, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
So mine is Vegan Proteins. So you can get to me at veganproteins.com. And then Vegan Proteins is my name on pretty much all social media.
Instagram. She's a great follow on Instagram.
Thanks.
Nichole?
So our vegan snacking company is Nichole Organics on Instagram and Facebook. And the website is nicholeorganics.com. And then I'm also on Instagram individually as my name, Nichole Dandrea-Russert.
I'm so sorry I've been saying it wrong all morning.
Oh, you're
Dandrea.
fine. You're fine.
JoVonna, where can we get in touch with you?
I am Maitu Foods, so MAITU Foods, FOODS.com. And it's at Maitu Foods. It's on Facebook, on Instagram. And then for the farming, if anybody's interested, that's growwhereyouare.farm. Growwhereyouare.farm.
Awesome. And you all have booths in the exhibit hall, is that right?
We didn't do a booth this year.
You didn't do a booth this year, but will you be around today if people want to chat?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I'll be
Okay.
walking through a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. So we have some booths, we have some availability, and we'll publish their handles through our official Atlanta Veg Fest as well. So if you're following us at AtlantaVegFest.com or Atlanta Veg Fest on Instagram, Twitter, we'll publish their information so you can stay in touch. All right.
Nichole,
Yeah.
if you were to take on somebody that had just gotten diagnosed with diabetes and went through a traditional comprehensive diabetes education program, what would you tell them? What would you teach them to try to bring them to what you think might be the more ideal approach to diabetes?
Plant-based is definitely the way to go for treating diabetes right now and managing blood sugar, and then also avoiding all the complications. So if you're saying traditional ways like meat, and because the focus is adding protein to each diet and then having some vegetables, really just focusing on plant-based proteins. So still making sure that you have a nice balance of carbohydrate, healthy fats, getting tons of fiber. Fiber is just it's helpful in so many areas, but diabetes, especially with controlling blood sugar. So just looking more for plant-based proteins to substitute for the meat proteins, absolutely, would be helpful. Of course, you get carbohydrates in some of those plant-based proteins, but with the fiber and the types of other nutrients that are in there, you'll see still a benefit with controlling blood sugar.
All right. Thank you so much. We have time for a couple more questions. We got our folks right here. All right, here you go.
Hi, my name's Sue, and I just want to tell you all thank you for coming. I definitely learned a lot from all of you. My question, I actually have a couple. How do you deal with the naysayers, the people that doubt your reasons or doubt the strength and the health benefits of eating a plant-based diet? And how do you help people understand that it is an affordable way of eating? And a lot of times I get from people, I can't eat that way because I can't afford it. How do you help people understand that it is affordable?
And how do you deal with the naysayers in general? So folks say it's not possible, or you can answer that more broadly. But it sounds like the economic question is a real concern. So how do you address that in a loving and productive way?
I know for us, we've been demoing and doing events with Nichole for 8 years, and for 8 years, I'm surprised that we still get a lot of the same comments of people coming up to the table. Used to be emphatically say, we've got vegan snacks or vegan chocolates, and it would turn a lot of people off. They say, I'm not vegan, so I can, but I have a friend who's vegan, so I can give them your card. So we still get a lot of that, or people who run away from chocolate because they are trying to eat better. I'm like, but you need this in your diet every day. So there are definitely a lot of roadblocks just with folks who have not subscribed to plant-based eating yet, and I think making light of it. I mean, for us, chocolate happens to be the vehicle, so really just try this and making light of it. But it's an opportunity to just open up a conversation, and ask. It's actually a good opportunity to ask them the question. What do you feel like a plant-based diet is, or what is your obstacle, your personal obstacle, and kind of fine-tuning it and seeing what what the roadblock is. You know, for a lot of people, it's plant-based eating doesn't taste good. It doesn't, you know, aren't you hungry all the time? Where do you get your protein? Of course, it's a common one. So I think that we can plug in an answer to any one of those things, but first asking them specifically, why, you know, what is your thought? Why are you not, you know, why are you not subscribed to this yet? Because there's so much good evidence out there that it's really good for you.
Yeah,
And then economically, I think it's just picking and choosing. You know, I think organic can be a little, unfortunately, it's not.
But sometimes it isn't.
Yeah,
You know, sometimes you go
it's-
into DeKalb Farmers Market if you're local
Yeah.
here in Atlanta, and you see it's cheaper to get organic.
Exactly.
JoVonna, Dani, what are some of the ways you keep it positive when somebody comes at you with an attitude of like, nah, that's just not possible? You know, like I love the asking questions strategy. What are your strategies?
For me, I get a lot of naysayers in the arena of sports and fitness because that's like the number one thing. You can't be vegan and strong and muscular, so I just let my work speak for itself. When I compete, which is only for short periods each year because it's really intense, I don't wear any vegan stuff until after I win. Because I don't want the judges to hold it against me, because some people just hate vegans,
They do.
man.
Yeah, they really do.
So I go out there, don't say anything, just do my thing. When I place well, then I put my vegan muscle hoodie on and walk out of the building.
I
And
do
it's
that.
pretty awesome.
So good. I do that like mic drop at work with cupcakes or baked goods. Like I bring in my stuff and like they eat it and they're like, this is the best cupcake I've ever had. Oh my goodness. And I'll be like, yeah, you know, it's vegan. And then like the frustrating thing for me is that sometimes they'll get like, they will have just gone wild for it. And then when they hear it's vegan, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I guess there was something a little off about it. I'm like, for real, no. You were just losing it over how tasty this was. So definitely. JoVonna, you want to round this one out?
You're going to always have naysayers. And it's like you can't address every single one. A lot of times, though, with us, it's when people come out and like have an experience. Because we get a lot of people that are like, listen, I've been diagnosed with, with diabetes, or I'm about to have a major surgery. And a lot of times it's just a matter of saying, well, here, take this holy basil home, or take this herb, or take this plant home and try it out. And then generally what happens is those same naysayers come to you and they're like, I got to get more of that, because they've had an experience, because we can spend all day kind of like going back and forth with people. And I know me personally, I don't have the time, nor do I have the interest to do it. So a lot of it is just, like you said, allowing your work to speak for itself, or allowing the plants to do what the plants do. And just saying, you know what, here. Here. Have it for free. Take it, and have whatever experience you're going to have with it. And generally what happens is they come back to you and say, wow, that really, changed things for me. Like, my mom was a naysayer for years. She just thought, you're doing this, you're weird, and it's just, like, what is this? And she was here just recently, and I told her, like, when you're at our center, you cannot eat any meat, you can't have any dairy. And she did it for 2 weeks. And she also, because she's like, I gotta have my meat, that's what keeps me going, I gotta have my coffee. She did it for 2 weeks, no meat, no dairy, and she also worked the farm. And she called me, and this is one of the inspiring moments. She called me about, she went back home to California, and she was just like, I want to thank you so much. She's like, you changed my life. And I'm like, well, it wasn't me, you did it. But just, because she was just like, I'm totally against that vegan stuff, JoVonna, you're being weird, you're out there, like you weren't raised like that. But then she had the experience for herself where she saw how she felt. She saw her weight dropping, she saw that she had more energy. And so I didn't have to argue with her because, the plants did what the plants do. So.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right, for our last two questions, because we're almost out of time and we've got another amazing presentation starting at 12:30, we're going to hear from the New York Times bestselling author, Jonathan Balcom. He wrote What a Fish Knows. He is a scientist with decades of experience. If you're even slightly nerdy, or if you're full-blown nerd like myself, this is your talk of the day. At 12:30, so we'll see you back in the theater. So for our final two questions that we had, what I'd like you to do is ask your question and then hand the mic back to me, and then I'm going to have you ask your question and hand the mic back to me, and they'll just popcorn style what resonates with them. Sound good?
I have two questions. JoVonna, I'm on the verge of starting a raw vegan cafe, and I'd like your input on maybe a couple things that I should know about doing that. And also, I'd like to have your input on, as far as diabetes go, what you think about I'm sure you've heard of the different culprits of diabetes, whether it be too much fat in the diet, too much sugar in the diet, and which school of thought do you agree with?
Thank you. Here, let's hear your question.
First off, thank you so much for your speeches. They were awesome, or the panel. I have some issues with just having bad relationships with food and self-image and just kind of disordered type eating and stuff like that. And what would you recommend? I think this would be appropriate for all of you, but what would you recommend for someone who has bad relationships with, their food and self-image and stuff like that?
Wonderful. So just to recap, getting started as an entrepreneur with a raw vegan cafe, questions about diabetes and major causes, and then body image, body positivity. You have a history of difficulty in that area, some words of wisdom there, and a good place to start.
Can we answer them in any order?
You can answer any of them. You don't have to answer all of them. Just answer what speaks to you.
Okay. For you, I would say first, turn off your television. Period.
Or your Instagram.
Or your Instagram. It's designed to do that, And really, for me, a lot of it is taking time for yourself, sitting with yourself, and we could go back to meditation, right? And just seeing where you are with yourself and finding beauty in what it is and who it is that you are, right? We all have a space in this, in life, we all have a purpose. But really, I think social media and media period is so damaging, and it takes away from what you talked about as far as diversity, because we're all told to kind of fit into this same program. And we forget that we are all varied beings, working together. So that would be my first advice, is really just to turn off the television. And then what I think that self-reflection allows is for us to kind of go back and see where our relationships with food and with image, where they began, and begin to unpack, right? And then once we can unpack, then we can begin the healing process and the building process, right? But I think we have to turn and face ourselves first, right? And kind of block out all the outside noise. And it's it's noise, right? Meant to distract us from really getting into ourselves and knowing who we are and being able to appreciate who we are. So that would be my advice for that. As far as the startup, are you trying to do a storefront? Like, are you trying to have an actual brick and mortar restaurant?
Yes, that's right, a storefront cafe.
Okay. Well, my first advice would be to go through the certifications and licensing. That would be the first thing. Because are you in the United States? Yeah,
so in Georgia.
I don't know so much about Cobb County, but because I'm in like Stelmont and Lithonia. And so the first thing I kind of did backwards. What I did was our community had a need, and before we got our regulations and wait, because we're on video, right? Yes. So
we are very on video.
I would say certifications and getting.
That was too real, JoVonna. That was too real.
Yeah, get certified. Figure out what it is that you need as far as to open up a restaurant first. You need to get licenses and things like that first, insurance,
the health,
and all of that. Yeah, health.
But I think everybody starts, just as everyone who starts a food business starts in their kitchen, or
right.
And the cottage food laws in Georgia.
But
are not
you
great.
have cottage. Yeah, you have cottage
right,
food laws.
Yeah,
it depends on what you want to make. But we have cottage certifications. Just for me, it's like just get all of them. But because we started backwards, we had to then go backtrack and get everything. Because find your niche as well, because right now what's happening in Atlanta is that we're getting saturated with the same type of stuff. So we have a lot of different restaurants, but they're all kind of featuring the same things. But I think there's room for diversity.
Yeah.
So I think, as far as raw foods, and depending on location as well, because we don't everything is on one side of town.
Yep.
So if you want to get vegan or vegetarian food or even raw food, I think I only know of one other raw restaurant, and that's all the way in East Point. So
loving it
Loving It Live.
Yeah, it's a good one. So
and research, go to other restaurants. And
yes.
Not to say that to take away from, but see what it is that they're doing and what works. And that's always helpful as well, and what the community wants as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. So we're at time. To wrap us up, I would love to hear about just the answer to the diabetes question. I'd love to have you address that in front of everyone.
Sure.
And Dani, I'd love for you to close us out by speaking to body image, because I know that that is something that you and I and many of your clients have worked on specifically. So if we can do that, and then we'll dismiss.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, meditation, yes, for the body image thing, I feel like is really important, and what you said was great. So yes, for diabetes, saturated fat, so fats from animal products. I do believe that there's a lot of research coming out that is definitely stimulates the insulin resistance and can move you closer to diabetes. So that coupled with refined carbohydrates, sugars, which is increasing your blood sugar, and also just creating all the other complications of diabetes. So saturated fat and sugar, refined carbohydrates, processed foods, it's just all of it coupled together. So I don't think we can pin it down to just one thing, but saturated fat is definitely, like animal products are definitely creating that insulin resistance. And then sugar and processed carbohydrates on top of it are contributing to the high blood sugars. So plant-based is definitely, it all goes back to whole foods, plant-based diet, really. I think for everything is, what's helpful.
Thanks for speaking the truth, Nichole. We need to hear more of it. All right, Dani, let's round us out.
All right, so one thing I think that's important to remember is that everybody has some insecurities about their bodies, I think. Top-level cover models are still insecure about their bodies in some way. I'm not saying that's good, but it can just be nice to know, like, you're not the only person that's feeling that way. I agree with JoVonna. Step away from the social media, step away from the media, because it is designed to make you compare yourself to others, and they say comparison is the thief of joy, and I think that's true. Watch your internal monologue. Watch it like it's a separate person inside your head and see how they're talking to you.
Would you say this to your best friend?
Would you say those things to your best friend or your mother or your sister? Probably not. And if you wouldn't say it to them, you shouldn't say it to yourself. Changing your inner monologue takes a lot of work, years of work, but you can watch the words you say out loud. That you can change. Don't say bad things about yourself out loud. And when you are able to stop saying negative things out loud, the voice in your head gets a little bit quieter and a little bit quieter. And then the last just really practical tip I would say is make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you're wearing clothes that are comfortable. Don't save the dress that's too small and try it on. There's no purpose in that.
Donate it to Goodwill.
I said goodbye to jeans many years ago because they're just uncomfortable, and if you are uncomfortable, you're gonna feel bad about yourself. So make sure you're wearing clothes that you're comfortable in.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank y'all so much. We have a break now. We have a half an hour, so head back over to the exhibit hall, but get back over here for 12:30. We're going to have a full house for that amazing talk from Jonathan. Thank you again. See you soon.